A question that I got recently was, my laptop isn't the best and I'm just starting out, so I can't really invest in a better setup. Can I edit in 1080p and then export in 4K? Will I still get the best quality? And honestly, that's a great question because honestly, we're all thinking the same thing at some point. So in this video, I'm going to break down what actually happens when you edit in 1080p and export in 4K, when it's okay and when it's not okay to do it, and what I think is the best option if your laptop is struggling. But yes, you can do it, but there's a catch. So let's get straight to it. Editing in 1080p and exporting in 4K does not magically turn your video into true 4K quality. That's the biggest misunderstanding right there. If your final timeline is built in 1080p and then you export that same edit in 4K, it's usually just give you an upscale version of that 1080 timeline. And it may still look good, and it may even look better than a regular 1080 in certain situations, but it's not the same as a true 4K workflow. So the short answer is yes. You can do it, but this is not the best way to preserve your full 4K quality. Here's where a lot of beginners get tripped up. There's really 3 separate things you need to think about. First, your footage resolution. That's what your camera actually recorded. Maybe you shot in 4K. Second, your timeline resolution. That's the resolution you're editing in inside of Premiere Pro or whatever software you use. Third is your export resolution. That's what you choose when you decide to send the video out. Those 3 things are related, but they are not the same. Just because your footage is 4K doesn't automatically mean that your timeline is using all the detail the right way. And just because you export in 4K doesn't mean that your edit suddenly becomes true 4K quality. And that's why people get confused. So let's say you shoot your client in 4K, but your laptop is slow and struggling, so you decide to edit in 1080p. What happens? Well, your software is trying to fit that 4K footage into a 1080 frame while you edit, and that can still look good, and it still might work if you're just trying to pump content out. And there is a benefit to using 4K in a 1080p timeline. It's easier for you to crop in, reframe, and stabilize without losing too much quality. That part is actually useful. But once your whole sequence is built around a 1080p timeline, exporting in 4K doesn't magically rebuild all that detail from that 4K source. In most cases, you're just stretching that finished 1080 edit into a 4K container. So again, it can still look solid, but it's just not the same as editing and delivering a full 4K master. Now let me be clear, editing in 1080p is not a terrible thing, and there are definitely situations where that makes sense to do. Like if your laptop is weak and you're trying to avoid the lag, the stuttering, and the crashes, a 1080p timeline makes sense, and it will make the editing process easier. Also, if like your audience is mostly watching on phones, tablets, social media, a good 1080p export will be just fine. If you're just starting out, getting clean edits done consistently matters way more than getting the perfect export settings. And that's the important part. A lot of people, including myself, have gotten stuck trying to force the perfect workflow onto a computer that can't even handle it. Then you get stuck, you get frustrated, and then ultimately you just stop creating. So sometimes the lighter workflow is the way to go. Now, where it becomes a problem is when you think that exporting 4K is going to magically recover all the detail that your timeline wasn't preserving in the first place. That's not how it works. So if your goal is to get the sharpest YouTube upload, the cleanest image, the most flexibility, and the highest end final result, editing in 1080p and simply exporting in 4K is just not the way to go. Especially if you're making cinematic content, client work, real estate videos, or any other project where the image quality matters the most. Because once that sequence is built in 1080, you're making a compromise. Not a deal breaker, but still a compromise. Now here's the part that I really want beginners to understand. This has saved my life because I was struggling with this. If you're shooting in 4K and your computer is struggling, your best option is to edit with proxies. Proxies are basically a lighter, easier to edit version of your 4K footage. So here's how it works. So instead of forcing your computer to play back that high quality 4K footage while you edit, your computer is now working with a lightweight, lower quality proxy file. Then when you export, it reconnects to that original high quality 4K footage. This is the part that most people have missed. Even I missed it. With proxies, you get a way easier, smoother editing process without giving up any quality. This is way smarter than building everything in 1080p and then hoping your computer rebuilds everything in 4K when you export. So here's the easiest way to think about this. If you shot in 4K and want the best quality possible, keep your project built in 4K, use proxies if your laptop is slow, and export from the original high quality media. That gives you the best balance between performance and quality. So if your machine is really struggling but you need to get the project done, editing in 1080p can still work. and it can still look good, but just don't expect it to be true 4K quality just because you exported it 4K at the end. That's the honest answer. So if you're just starting out and your setup isn't strong, here's what I recommend. Shoot in 4K if your camera allows it. Bring that footage into your editor, create proxies, edit with proxies turned on so your machine runs smoother, then export using the original files at your final delivery resolution. That way you're not forcing your laptop to do too much and you're not throwing away any quality for no reason. That's probably the best beginner workflow I can think of if you want good results without upgrading your system right away. And honestly, let me say this too. Don't let this stuff stop you from creating. A lot of people are so worried whether they're editing in the right resolution or using the right codec or they're exporting the right way that they never actually get better through real reps. If your laptop is limited, work within your limits. Just understand what the trade-off is. A clean, well-edited 1080p video with good pacing, good audio, good storytelling will beat a boring 4K video any day. So yes, quality matters, but your workflow needs to match you where you're at right now. So to wrap it up, can you edit in 1080p and export 4K? Yes. Will it give you the full benefit of true 4K quality? No. If your original quality is 4K and your system is struggling, just go ahead and create those proxies so you can preserve that original quality and make your editing process easier. Hopefully that clears it up. If you want, I can make a follow-up video showing you exactly how to create those proxies and show you the best export settings for beginners with struggling laptops. Let me know in the comments and I'll make that next. And if this has helped you out, subscribe because I'm going to be dropping more tutorials on how to get those cinematic edits, AI workflows, and how to make your content look its best without needing the biggest setups in the world. Peace.